Hi guys, welcome back to Earth to Rosita. So today I wanted to talk about something that I say often. Make man masculine again. MMA. So I wanted to talk about what I mean when I say this because I think most people don't actually know, not even spiritual people who've studied like Chinese mythology and stuff, they don't actually know, well, in my point of view, not trying to sound arrogant, but they don't actually understand what masculinity actually is. And it's layers. There's like two layers of masculinity that we need to talk about and address. So there's the divine masculine and the dark masculine, just like there's a dark feminine and a dark divine feminine. Sorry. So the reason why I think it's important, it's vital to make men masculine again is because that is the foundation of a strong society. And the reason I think this is because of basically, history, really. If you study history, I believe that patriarchs are better than matriarchs. And the reason why this is because divine masculinity or even dark masculinity, it gets things done in a natural order way. And a lot of people, like not a lot of people, but progressives, for example, they think that the idea of patriarchy or like feminist or whatever, the idea of a patriarchy or strong men or men who lead a society, it's leading to some kind of oppression to women, when in reality is when you study the spiritual aspect of masculinity, divine masculine, and even maybe dark masculine, which is war, violence, kind of like a tough shell sort of thing going on. It has more purpose than the dark feminine or the divine feminine. Okay, not the divine feminine, because the divine feminine is the mother, but the dark feminine. When the dark feminine rears its ugly head, it doesn't look the same as the dark masculine. And in a way, I think the dark feminine is actually more deadly. It's more dangerous because of what the dark feminine actually is. The dark feminine is basically psychological warfare. And people confuse the dark masculine with this. They think that the dark masculine is the psychological warfare that is happening. They think that the dark masculine is responsible for all of the psyops. But the reality is, the dark masculine actually doesn't even give a fuck what you think about its dark plans, his dark plans. And that's what makes the dark masculine less dangerous, because if the dark masculine wants to start a war, it will start a war without your consent, without trying to brainwash you into thinking that it's a good idea. They will just do it. And so you know what you're up against. But with the dark feminine, you don't know what you're up against, because with the dark feminine, she has to trick you into thinking that you actually want to embrace your dark side. And that is why I comment, like I try to refer to the serpent that is spoken about in the Bible, and Satan or Lucifer, or this figure that it's a dark feminine figure that is spoken about in a lot of religions. The Devas is spoken about in the Zendavesta as well. So in the Zendavesta, which is Zoroastrianism, it's spoken about a low vibrational being, that the high vibrational being, which is God, tries to get us to fight against, or tries to put us into a position where we're not seeking out to be that. So in Zoroastrianism, good thoughts, good deeds, good words are the state of being that we achieve to be. We have to strive to be. And the reason for this is because high vibrational is because it's high vibrational, but it's also because, like other religions have spoken about, it leads to God. The highest is God. The lowest is Satan. The lowest is Devas. The Devas. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's how I read it when I read the Zendavestas. The high vibrational being is man, masculine. It's the divine masculine. It's not the dark masculine, because the dark masculine teams up with the dark feminine. And together, that's why so often people conflate and confuse the two with each other. Because they do actually, the dark feminine and the dark masculine actually do work hand in hand. But it's always the dark the dark feminine that starts the narrative, because it manipulates the dark masculine to follow its lead. Just like in the Bible, it said Adam and Eve, who ate the forbidden flesh first? Who ate the forbidden whatever that was first? Because we don't know at the end of the day if it was just something out of a tree or what. And we will never know, because the Bible has been manipulated. And I know Christians don't like to hear this, but even Islamic texts have been manipulated in some sense. But in the Zendavesta, when I was studying that, it said that it wasn't like, because Zoroastrianism, if you studied the Zoroastrian texts like I have, it's so abundantly clear that Christianity and maybe even Judaism and Islam took things out. The theme of all of these religions took out of Zoroastrianism, because Zoroastrianism came before. And so this is where you have to look at all of these spiritual texts, Chinese mythology, Chinese religions, Asian religions, Hinduism. I haven't studied Jainism, by the way. I don't even know if I said that right. But I've heard of that religion, and that's the only religion I haven't kind of looked into. Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, all of these, Baha'i, all of these religions, all these forms of spirituality, at the end of the day, they're trying to tell us the same thing. Just in very, very different forms. And I know that, religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, they don't have one god. They have many gods. I understand that. I think Shinto as well, it's called. I haven't studied that religion, but I will eventually. But at the end of these, like a similarity that all of these religions have is not that the one God thing. It's what they're trying to tell us is that there is a force of good and a force of evil, or that there is like they just say it differently. There's high vibrational acts and low vibrational acts, for example. Like murdering is a low vibrational act. Murdering leads you to hell. But they all have different ideas as to the concepts of it. So Christianity, for example, it has the 10 Commandments and the 7 deadly sins. And this is a very useful thing, because it it's explicit. And when you study, like, even Greek mythology, for example, all of these gods, it's not just, as some people say, Gnostic bullshit. It's connecting the dots. I got this tattoo like a couple of years ago, connect the dots. That was my first tattoo. You have to connect the dots of everything. And I think spirituality is telling us that dark masculine and dark feminine, especially dark feminine, are the pathway to hell, are the pathway to creating hell on earth, literal hell on earth. So when you look at what's going on with all this progressive nonsense, for example, there's this woman who, when she was a teenage girl, she was manipulated into giving into this trans ideology because her doctors told her parents, would you rather have a trans son or a dead daughter? That kind of thing. And this is dark feminine and dark masculine working together, because the dark feminine is playing psychological warfare, like psychological manipulation on the people. And the dark masculine, the way that it works, it's using information not to the betterment of people and society, but to the detriment of people and society. And it's interesting because we're living through a time right now where people are blaming the patriarchy for all of the problems of the world, when it's actually, I would argue that the dark feminine was the beginning of it all, because the dark feminine started the war, because progressives started the war. The progressives started the war back in the 70s or the 60s, when they manipulated Americans into sexual liberation and the hippie movement and all of that kind of stuff. And it's hard to see, especially for Americans. After being in America for like a month or something, I can understand why people's brains are so scrambled, why conservatives' brains are so scrambled, why progressives' brains are so scrambled. It's because it's such a huge place, larger than life kind of vibe over there, that people don't have the time or the mindset to look at all this information, because they have to hustle, because they have to, it's a go-go, fast-paced environment, America. But someone like me, who's in Australia, where I do have like time to relax, and in the situation that I'm in right now anyways, I've read through all of this stuff, and it says the way to God, the way to high vibrational world, the way to something holier always has to come through the man. And I'm not like trying to be a pick-me or something when I say this. It's just that everything that links back to the masculine, the father figure. What is the masculine in mythology? It's the sun. It's the light. And what do you find in the light? You find the truth. Where does the truth root from? It's not just the divine feminine, but it's the divine masculine, especially because the divine masculine, fortunately, The divine masculine champions all of the information, all of the intellect. And when I look back at my life, when I ran to the divine masculine, or a man, or men more than I did women, or masculine women, I found myself making better decisions than when I would listen to the feminine, whether it's the dark feminine or the divine feminine. It's because the divine feminine, I think that I read somewhere in Zoroastrianism, it explains this, which is why I believe, I don't know if this is true or not, because I haven't studied Christianity that much to that extent. In Christianity, it's wrong for there to be a female priest. In Zoroastrianism, it says that the feminine is so susceptible to energy that she doesn't actually even know what energy she's susceptible to. Which is why I was a socialist progressive at one point. I thought, in my intuition, in my empathetic nature, because I'm so feminine, I thought that the way to utopia was the socialist progressive movement. And that's because I did not actually understand the energy that I was letting in. The deceiver. The deceiver is spoken about in a lot of religions. Satan, Lucifer, the deceiver. So feminine energy is not the pathway to a better world. Feminine energy, the matriarchy, the reason why it's always led to the downfall, or it's led to weaker societies, is because the feminine doesn't understand that the energy that she lets into her space could actually be demonic. That's why in Zoroastrianism, women are advised to wear a white scarf over their heads so that their minds are kept pure. And that's why we need to make men masculine again, divine masculine, and then dark masculine where it is due. Because there is a place for darkness. Because at the end of the day, when we go back to, when we embrace darkness, it always comes back to light. It always comes back to the sun. That's the yin yang of things. It goes up and down, and it's always meant to be that way. And it's always meant to be that way until we figure out how to just stay in a high vibrational place. But it won't happen. It probably won't happen ever because of what happened in the Garden of Eden, because of the sun and the moon. Because the sun and the moon being yin and yang of life, there is no day without night. The yin and yang of life, the sun and the moon are poetically telling us that darkness cannot exist without light. Divine masculine and feminine cannot exist without dark masculine and feminine. But we have to strive for good thoughts, good deeds, good words. And we have to strive to be honoring the 10 Commandments. And we have to strive to stay away from the 7 deadly sins. And that's what religion is telling us. And that's why I find it so fascinating. All of these religions speaking to us, speaking to me, speaking to you in different ways, in different texts, in different things. It's always telling us the exact same thing at the end of the day. It's telling us to choose the masculine, to choose the divine masculine, to lead to the divine feminine. It's telling us to choose good thoughts, good deeds, good words. It's telling us to stay away from sin. And part of the sin, one of the biggest controversies that most religious people will not agree on, is the fact that the dark masculine includes the things that we do to animals. That text in Genesis that said that we hold dominion over animals does not, this is my question to Christians and even Islamic people. How exactly do you hold dominion over animals that were given to us by God to be stewards of? How exactly do you be a steward to animals when they're dead? I know that sounds like a crazy question, like, oh, well, they're dead. Like, think about this deeply. I know it sounds like a funny question to ask, but how are you going to be taking care of animals when you're sending them to slaughter? It doesn't really make sense, does it? Because they have a death day, and you're marking their death date. This is the dark masculine. This is the devil. This is the work of the devil, and Zendavesta says it very clearly. It's an abomination to kill animals, and it has very strict guidelines as to how we're to treat animals. And I'll link below I'll link below a blog post that I read on this. But the Bible says that you can eat these animals, but as long as they're clean. Well, if you think about it, no animal is really clean, are they? Because they're in factory farms where they're standing on their piss, shit, vomit. So they're not exactly clean, are they? You're polluting the ocean and you're eating sea life. They're not exactly clean, are they? Because you've made a commodity out of these animals that God gave you to be stewards to. So how will you, and don't think for a second that thou shalt not murder, pretty sure it's the 6th commandment, does not apply to animals. It doesn't say anything about thou shalt not murder thy brother or sister, or I can't I can't speak in that kind of language, but it does not say thou shalt not murder who. It says thou shalt not murder, and it doesn't specify what it's talking about. And then you can say, oh, but God gave us all things to eat. Do I really have to explain? Okay, well, I'll have to explain because people don't understand the meaning of words. Things and animals are not the same. A thing is an object. If you don't understand the difference between a thing and a being and a someone, I don't know how to explain the English language. This is the definition of thing, an object. Okay? The Bible did not say all things and beings are here for you to eat. Because we know damn well the differences between a carrot, a vegetable, a grain, wheat. We know the difference, right? I think that sane people, unless we're triggered and we're talking about veganism, understand the difference between a fruit and a literal animal, a pig or a chicken. A chicken and a carrot do not bleed the same. They don't have bones, they don't have muscles, they don't have lungs. An animal has the same or similar functions to us. Do you understand that? So, they breathe, they have eyes, they have nose, they have mouth, they have ears, just like we do. They are similar, they're just in a different form. They have skin. They get cancer just like we do. They get tumors just like we do. Do you not see yourself, do you not see yourself in that being? You can't resonate with a fucking tree growing apples. You can't resonate with a grain growing rice. I mean, a rice terrace growing legumes and stuff. Like, what am I even saying? I don't even know. I think I'm hungry. You get it. I think that you get it. But a thing and a being that has a soul, that has consciousness, so clearly has consciousness within. A cow has consciousness, the same as a human has consciousness. I mean, not the same, the exact same, but it's the same idea. Animals were put here for us to be stewards of, but animals were also created to glorify God's creation, and I'm pretty sure in the Bible it says that. So the more that you fucking kill animals, the more that you exploit them, the more that you abuse them, the more that you treat them as commodities and then send them to murder factories, the more you're killing God in essence. And I didn't mean to go on a vegan tangent on this, but that's a big part of the dark masculine. The dark masculine, aka Satan, has tricked you into believing that this is a necessary evil, when it's actually not. It's actually not a necessary evil. God was made in God made you in his image to be godly. That's what the metaphor of that is. It's not to say, oh, I'm a fucking superior, arrogant piece of shit, and I can do whatever I want to this earth. It's just, God made you in his image to be more godly, not to play God. That's not what he meant. That's not what God meant. The highest being that's that created the universe around us. That's not what God meant. It didn't say be me. It didn't say you are me. That's not what it meant. That's not what God meant by that. Because if you actually believe that God created you in his image in order to play God, then you're just the same as Lucifer at that point. Because Lucifer wanted to destroy God in order to replace him. Did I say that already? Okay. Anyways, you get what I mean, right? You're basically playing Lucifer's role if you think that by God saying, I created you in my image, so you must be me, then you're just doing what Lucifer did. Do you not see that? You're just doing what Satan did. The serpent. You're being the deceiver to yourself, to human consciousness. But yeah, that's why we need the dark. We need to bring back masculine men, because masculine men is the only key to divine feminine women. And when these two merge and stop embracing the dark masculine and the dark feminine, all aspects of the dark masculine and any aspect of the dark feminine, we will have a more godly world. We will have a more balanced world again. So that's where I'm leaving it off with. Like this video, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and I really hope that you took something out of this nearly 30-minute rant. Have a lovely day or night. Subscribe. Bye, guys.